Alright, hello. Here we are back for the second Jamoma tutorial. You'll find in the folder for Jamoma tutorial 1 another patch tutorial 1A, so I guess I should really call this Jamoma tutorial 1A. And there's a few extra things here that we're going to look at. So the first is that we have our input module here. You're already familiar with that. We have our output module here. You're already familiar with that. And we're going to plug a new module in the center here. And this is really like, you might think about it as having a plug-in where you put an effect between the input or the sound file player and the output to the computer. So let's go ahead and unlock our patch. Control click again in an empty space to get this menu. Go down to paste from Jamoma just as we did in the last tutorial. And now go to audio modules. Now I hope that you've already looked at this and played around a little bit with the fact that there are lots of them here. There are plug-in effects for degrading the audio, delay, echo. There are equalizers. There are sample players, which we'll come back to look at. There are filters. There are synthesizers, limiters, multi-delays, noise gates here. Some special effects, sample players, saturation, scope to look at the signal, sonifier to make sound from data, and then some specialist spectral effects for gating and shifting, tremolo. And there's also the possibility of adding a VST plugin or an audio unit plugin. So you can see there's a huge range of things already just here ready for us to work with. There are also a whole bunch of things that we'll get into here in control, such as cue scripts, so we can trigger cues, we can manage changes from one preset to another, we can even interpolate or move between them. There's the use of the mouse, there's MIDI inputs, there's all kinds of complex mapping. We can send the data out over the internet as a multicast. Lots and lots of things here to look at. Wacom tablet inputs, etc. You can look at ways of conditioning data and so on, writing text files, a whole bunch of image tools here, and then a large range of multi-channel audio spatialization tools here using ambisonic panning, which is a system we'll talk about a little later in the semester. There are also, of course, and this is not central to our course here, a whole range of objects for vision, for video effects, etc., etc. Video capture, video output. And we will get towards this later in the semester because your performance work should include a visual element. Okay, so we're going here, audio modules, and what I wanted you to note is these delay and echo objects. So we'll just select echo, and in the same way that it happened in the last tutorial, we now have a full echo module. Now let's open the information window again, Apple I, come down here, and I'm going to call this, remember, / first, GP, delay, I can't remember what I called the other one, so I'm going to call this O2 because I already have a couple of delays there. And I'm going to close that for now. Note here that there are all kinds of other things you can do, like adjust the background color, etc., so that the patch really looks slightly different. Now, there are reasons why that's not showing up here at the moment, but we won't go into that. So you can see here, this is a delay, there's a single tap delay here. There are also multi-tap delays, so another module called multi-tap delay, where you can have multiple delays here of different length, different feedback length, and then our echo unit. Now, in actual fact, I've named this incorrectly. It shouldn't be delay, it should be echo, because this is actually the echo unit. So let's just amend that. Okay. So I'm just going to delete these for the moment. And here's our echo unit. So we're going to just, for the purposes of review, create an input. So let's go paste from Jamoma audio. In this case, what I'm actually going to do is to select a sample player. And you'll see here the sample player object looks a bit different. Let's give that a name, /GP sampler 01. Okay. And we need to create an output. Again, control click paste from Jamoma audio modules output. Okay. Now, again, we know that we have a bunch of outputs here. You'll notice that we have 4 outputs. And if you hold on these, you'll see these center to output, audio output 1, that'll be left, and output 2 right. We know that they go in here, and that this left one is data. So we're going to put those directly in here and here, and again you can tell they're audio patch cords because of their color. Then we have to hook this effect directly into here. Again, we can just double check what these outputs are. Not very helpful information. Let's just click on them and see what the patch cord is. It's audio. Click, put it in there, and that one's audio as well. So now what's happening is that this sample player is going through this echo effect and into this output. So let's, you can see here, drop a sound file here. Let's go and grab a sound file and drop it on there. You'll note that we now see a picture of the sound file here, and in fact if we click on this plus signal here, we'll see a much bigger looper window where we can see the audio file here. Let's just leave that there for the moment. You'll also see up here, as we discovered, no, we didn't see this last time, you'll see here a volume control. See that it reads gain here when I move it. It's the volume control, and a mute button in addition to this plus, which gives us this looper window. So this is muted at the moment. You'll see here loop on or off, let's turn it on, and you'll see here that we can do some vary speed, some reversing, etc. And if we want to, manually open a file rather than drag and drop it. So let's hit play, nothing happens. Okay, why doesn't anything happen? Alright, so you probably remember that in order to make any audio happen in this patch, the audio network needs to be turned on. So we look for a module where we have the ability to turn the audio on and off, any one of these. Let's choose this one in the stream we're working on, and we turn that on, and you'll note that that comes on. You'll note that these are still off, which they shouldn't be. You can turn that off and turn it on again, and now you'll note they all 3 come on. It's just a bit of a bug. So you'll see this audio file is now playing here. We can't hear it. So we can't hear it because it has to first of all go through here, and you'll see this is muted at the moment, and the level is not turned up here. Let's turn that level up. Okay, so now we see audio is showing up here. It's not showing up here. Why is that? Well, simple reason is we haven't yet turned up the volume. So this is like the fader on the output of a mixing desk. Let's turn it up. Okay, so there we have our effect, the delay going through and out, and we can hear that. That's bypassed. You'll see there's a bypass button there. So that's just this signal being fed through there without it making any difference to the output. Let's add the echo again. 250 milliseconds on the left side, 750 on the right side with 0.2 feedback. So that's with the echo off. Back on again, echo off, Now, if we turn the audio file, the loop, off here, let's hit play, turn it off. You'll see it plays a little bit after that because the echo repeats. Play it again, turn it off, and so on. Okay, so we've got a couple of things going on here and we've got an interesting echo. Now you might remember that all of these units output, or these modules output data on this bottom left-hand corner, and we can see what that data is when we do any of these functions by putting a message box here. So let's unlock our patch, hit M for message. Let's just make that a little bit bigger so we can see it more clearly. Drag it over here. Plug the output here into this right-hand side of the message box. Lock the patch. So now whenever we do anything in this unit, this module here, it's going to show up here. So if I hit the bypass button, we can see that when that's on, in other words when it's in bypass, it sends a message saying /audio/bypass1. If I turn bypass off, it's the same message with a 0. So we could send this message into the top of this patcher to turn that on and off, and let's do that. So first of all, we're going to make a message box. Just hit M on the keyboard, go /audio/bypass, and put in a space. Now we need to put in a number here, which is going to be 1 or 0. And there's, let's do that. That's 0, that's off. Let's duplicate that, Apple D, drag that over here. Change that 0 to 1, and that's going to be on. Let's connect both of these now into here. And start playback again and use these to turn the bypass on and off. Okay, and watch this bypass button. Bypass is off, bypass on. See it lit up, bypass off, bypass on, bypass off, etc. So we could now use this to use MIDI keyboards or notes from an instrument or something to turn this bypass on or off, or a foot switch or whatever you would like. But we can actually do this more simply. If we were to replace this 0 with a variable, then we could just send the number 1 or 0 into this message and it would change its form. Now the way we do that here is to change this to $1. I'm going to delete this one. And this will take on whatever number we send into this message box through the left-hand input. So, what outputs a 1 or a 0? Well, one of the things that does that is a toggle box. How can we check that? That's what it outputs. Let's get a message box here and attach it to the toggle to the right-hand side, lock our patch, and hit the toggle 1, 0, 1, 0. So using a message box like this is a really quick way to check that this what the output of the object is. Now, it's not going to work if we just plug that into here. We need to actually plug that directly into here. So let's just take this message box and move it down here so we can see what this message is when that toggle box is added to this message here. Okay, let's just make that a bit longer. Audio bypass 1. Let's turn the toggle box off. Audio bypass 0. So you can see that this $1 is being replaced by the output of the toggle box. So let's hit play again. Bypass is off, so the delay is in. Let's turn on bypass. Turn on the echo again. Turn off the echo. On again. Okay, so you could have some fun playing around with turning that on and off and getting some interesting effects. Okay, now other things you could do here though is to increase the amount of feedback, which is the number of echoes that you get after the original excitation. So if we just turn this on and off the audio file really quickly, you can see we get that many. Let's turn this from 0.2 up to 0.6. This is in a range from 0 to 1. Let's turn the file on and off again quickly and see how different that is now. You can see that takes a long time now to die away. It's still actually there, slightly lower level. So if we play this now, we're going to get a lot of echoes on top of the drum. High pass. Turn the echo on again. And so you can hear it starting to sound a bit jumbled up. We could also change these times. Let's double click in this left one, change it to 1500 milliseconds. That's 1.5 seconds, double the time of the right one. Turn it on again. You see that it takes 1.5 seconds for this left channel to come through because first it has to fill the buffer. Now if we turn this off, you can see the left one is taking longer to die away because it's repeating over and over a 1.5 second buffer. Still there. Still there in the background. Okay, now there are two other cool things you can do here which you might enjoy playing with. One is that within this echo there's a filter, high-low pass filter. In fact, you can make it all kinds of different filters. So let's make it a high pass filter, which means it cuts off the lower frequencies and allows the higher frequencies to pass. And this is going to get applied to the echo signal coming out here. So let's hit play again and move that around. So going up and down again. Going up. Okay, so again, if we look at this message box coming out of this object, you can see the message here is filter / gain 4.875. Look at how long that delay is now. Crazy long. I'll turn that down. Seems to have got stuck in here almost, doesn't it? Alright, so bypass. But what we're looking at here is if we move this filter, you can see here filter frequency and the actual frequency of the cutoff. So we could make a message box like we made here with a floating point or a whole number here for the frequency that's there, filter frequency, and make a slider that does this. Let's do that quickly. So the quickest way to do that is actually just to grab this message box and duplicate it because it has the right message, it has the message we want to send in it. We'll just make that a bit longer. And then we're going to say, okay, well we want to be able to move this in whole numbers, $1 again like we did here. And let's put a slider up here. So you can double click here and select various things from the object box. We can come back to that if you like. But the easiest way to do this really is to hit the key N, make a new object and start typing what you want. A slider. Okay. Alright, now we have a slider. Let's make it a horizontal slider by grabbing it and moving it over here. Now we probably want this to go between a range of, let's say, 100 Hertz and 8000 Hertz. So we're going to need to use Apple I to open the info window box and to change the range of the slider. So the total range to the highest frequency that we're going to do, let's say 10,000. And we're going to tell it that we want to output as a minimum, let's say 100, and the output multiplier we'll leave at 1 for the moment. So it'll output up to 10,000, and the minimum number that can come out of here is 100. We can adjust various other things here, float. We can also, of course, adjust the color, like let's change the background color, make it some horrible orange, etc. Okay, let's close that. Now, let's just put in here an integer box so we can see the numbers. We do that by hitting the I key on the keyboard, and let's connect those two. And let's lock the patch and just move this fader and see if that really is giving us the numbers we want. Yes, it is. Okay, so let's plug this number box now into this message. And we now know that this is going to send out this message with this number at the end of it. So let's plug that into our filter, our echo, and move this. Oh, and something's wrong. The thing that's wrong is that I've put that in the wrong, sorry everybody. So let's just go back and grab that. Okay, so the message should be that, $1. Hopefully you all saw that error. We need to plug the number into here. Left-hand side, if we plug it into here, it rewrites the message box. Let's plug that into there again. Move the slider. Oh, and look at that. There's your sweeping filter up and down the echo. So let's hit play again and move the fader. Let's turn the volume up first. So we might want to change the range of this fader to more like 100 to 4,000. Let's just unlock the patch and do that while it's playing. Change this from 10,000 to 4,000. We're not hearing a lot of that change. Close that again, lock the patch, and now this will go from up to 4,000 down to 100. Cool. And that's the bypass again. Okay, one other thing I want to show you here, turn this down for a second a little bit, and that is vary, speed and reverse. So we could reverse this sound file. There it is, reverse, do the filter. Turn reverse off again, now we're going to pause. We can also vary the speed. Do our filter, and already, as you can see, we have loads of things going on here. We can record our output here and so on. So you can see here that we've looked at the messages that are sent. We've copied some of those messages and turned them into input control data to adjust the filter, to adjust the bypass. And we have looked at vary speed, on and off. Again, if you put a message box in here, it's quite easy to find out what the messages are that you would send into the module to change that. Vary speed active, vary speed off, 0, reverse on, reverse off. You can see all those messages. Very easy to then plug them in at the top here and control this using a MIDI keyboard or some other format. We've found that we can move this filter around and we can control that using a message. We've adjusted the range of the filter here. We've also found that the toggle box outputs a 0 or a 1. We've set up a message here to control the bypass here. So you can see the range of control. One further thing that we can do here is if we come back to this looper window, we can actually select a chunk of the loop that we want to, the file that we want to loop. So if we hit play here, or we turn the audio back on so it plays, just playing that bit of the file. Now I can select a different section. Let's calm down this amount of feedback here so we can hear something, but not too much. You can see here I'm just selecting little bits of the file, and already we're getting some quite interesting glitchy responses, right? And if you hook an interface here, you can have quite good control over doing that and start to use that perhaps with a filter to make some quite interesting performance outcomes. So, hope that's interesting. Please go ahead, look at the messages that are coming out of here. For instance, if you start to move these numbers, look at the bypass, look at what the messages are relating to the amount of feedback, for instance. Look at what else you can control, for instance, the gain on the filter here. Look at how you could control the master output in some other way, the volume, and enjoy yourself.